Vancouver Museum, and we're in the Hastings Steam Sawmill section here, going over some of the old relics and the way logs were cut in the old days. Yeah, it's amazing at the technology that they had in those days too. Things may seem a lot different now, but basically everything is just an improvement over what was there before. When you see the size of these trees, it's amazing that how long these trees have been growing here all through the years. And I understand that a lot of these equipment were brought over from England, and I guess shipping them must have been a big way of moving things around. When I look at all these, the way the mill was built in those days, the recent mills that we were used to seeing around, say even in South New Westminster, were not too much different than what was here 100 years ago. Except they went from saw blades to bandsaw blades. And when I looked at the where the Hastings Steam Sawmill was built, it looks like they brought water from Trout Lake through a sluice down to the mill for to generate steam through their boilers. For what reason, I don't know. Maybe they brought in that water was too salty. That might be the reason. We finish before the end of the year. In 1951 we started operation there. We moved from Richmond, which was on Jacobs Road, to there. And I was there for 13 years myself. My partners remained there for a little longer. But eventually, pig farming had ceased to be a big business for the Chinese at that time. When grandfather first came to Canada, I don't know what year he came. This I don't know. But when my father came over in 1910 or 1911, I think he came as a paper son, because the area where he was from is really not our own municipality. And when he first came to Canada, I understand that he worked with grandfather at the Hastings Steam Sawmill. Now, grandfather, I know that from stories I hear that he worked or logged in the Shaughnessy area. Now, whether this was before he went to work at Hastings Sawmill or after, I have no idea. But I know that he went back to China, and because of what he saved from his earnings, he was able to buy land and became a landowner. Now, around the time of the First World War, and this is before my time, but stories I hear, that they had contracted laborers to go to Europe to dig trenches for the troops in Europe. And most of these were from central China, and they were big people, like tall people, well-built and well-nourished people. And they came through the the immigration building in Vancouver there off Burrard Inlet. I guess where now the Canada Place is built, which used to be the old CPR docks. And I guess they went into the immigration building and then shipped directly over to Halifax and then on to boats to Europe. And I guess that's why there's so many Chinese in Europe. They were left there. Those, I guess some of them didn't want to go back, or maybe they didn't care whether they were given enough money to go back to China or not. But anyway, they stayed there in Europe. And of course now the Chinese are all over the world. Yeah. But getting back to my father, I think after he worked at the Hastings Steam Sawmill, then he went on to a farm off Richmond, off number 4 road to be exact. And Harry was born there, and I don't know if the second brother is born there or on number 6 road. I don't really know. And I myself was born probably on North Jacobs Road at the time, which was a private road. And we went to Mitchell School. In 1930, after we came back from China, we were back to China in 1930. The whole family of us. There was Harry, myself, Sylvia, and Pete. And we came back in, the same year, 1930. And I think that's when I started school at Mitchell School. In 1937, Richmond Junior Senior High School was built, so we moved from Mitchell School to Bridgeport School, which was temporary. And and then in the winter of 1939, the addition to the Richmond High School was finished, so we moved in there, which was called Richmond Junior Senior High School. And we left there. Both Sylvia and I left in 1942, and that was the year that the Japanese were all sent to different campsites across BC and Alberta. And of course the school population at the Richmond High School dropped about 1/3. And this was 1942, so we stayed on the farm till 1946, when we finally moved into Vancouver on 60th Avenue. And but getting back before the move, Father was very sick, and being in Richmond, it was a chore to get to the streetcar at Marine and Fraser just to take him to the hospital. So this was the reason that we bought the house on 60th Avenue, which we are still living in now.
Okay. What else can you say about Hastings-Ville Grand Trunk? What do you think of all these logs, the size of them?
Well, it's yeah. Well, you know, when I looked at these saw blades and the technology that they used here, prior to, say, even in the 50s, the mills haven't changed that much, except that I think they went from blades to bandsaw blades, which was quite an improvement because I think they gave a thinner saw cut, so there was less loss of lumber. They got more lumber out of a tree than when they were using the circular saws. Other than that, I can still remember Browning sawmills just south of the Patolo Bridge, which was almost a replica of the old Hastings steam sawmill, from what I can see here on the models. Even in the 1950s, there were still a lot of logs around in Surrey, and we had bought a quarter section of land out there with lots of trees, but these were second growth already. The first growth was taken off before the turn of the century, and but even so, some of the trees there were still, in a matter of 50 years, grew to a good size. Some of them as much as 20 inches at the stump. When we built our farm, we had sawn them to whatever length we wanted the timber to be, and we took them to a small sawmill operated by two brothers, and we had them custom cut to size. So basically, whatever lumber that we used to build the pig farm was mostly from the logs that we harvested ourselves. We were there from 1950. We started clearing the land.
Great-grandfather.
Mm-hmm. Tell me when to start.
Okay. Where are we in the...
Well, we're at the Vancouver Museum here at the H.R. McMillan, planetarium, I guess you would call it, or museum. And we're in the old Hastings steam sawmills area. And we've gone through looking at some of the models and saw blades and different things that were remnants of the old days. You know, grandfather first came, I don't know what year he came in, but he came, and then finally father came over and worked with him in the steam sawmill. And I don't know, grandfather did log in the Shaughnessy area, but whether this was before he went to work in the Hastings steam sawmill or after, I have no idea. I know when Dad came over, they were both working at Hastings steam sawmill, and from stories I hear, at night after work, they would go up in the alleys and pick up whatever they can for resale, like bottles and whatever else in those days that can be recycled. Dad never really talked too much about himself. These are stories that I hear from other people that worked along with father and great-grandfather. So this is about the extent of my knowledge. Okay?
Back to China?
Yeah. It was, what they had was an army ship for transporting soldiers. And it was four. At the time the war was on, it was 4 bunks. And when we went on, they took 2 of them out. So at least we had a little bit of room like this, whereas before it was all squeezed in into four beds like this.
How did it come to be that our surname is Y-U-E-N when we are Xingjia? Can you tell me about that?
Well, I think that when Father came to Canada, I think he was a paper son. I'm not sure on this, but I'm almost sure that he came as a paper son. And because the village that he came from was not Yinping, it was Sending. And Sending is another municipality. Now, I think he came in just before the empire collapsed. That's 1910, 1911. And of course, he came in as Zhang Yuan. When we went to school, actually, he signed his name as Jaetong Yuan, Jaetongyuan. Now here in Canada, the surname is the last name. But because of the way that he signed his name, everybody called us Yuan, which is his Christian name. And I know that a lot of the members here have changed their name to Yuan, except myself, because I was working with Chinese group. And the brother that was born in China came over in 1957, and of course, in Hong Kong, the way they spelled Tse is T-S-E or T-Z-E, which he never adopted. So they were more or less adopted a name called Zhe, which is quite close to Tse in Cantonese, or say in Yinping dialect. So, yeah. So in our family, there's 3 surnames kicking around as far as the boys are concerned. Yeah.
This is Hastings Mill.